President Trump could soon face criminal charges.
Former President Donald Trump is claiming that he will be arrested Tuesday.
Manhattan DA is continuing its investigation of Donald Trump's role into hush money payments.
Former President Trump could be indicted.
America's far left now following in the Soviet Union's KGB footsteps. Show me the man, and I will find you the crime. Tonight, why the latest attacks on President Trump?
A New York grand jury may have already returned an indictment for former President Donald Trump.
Should terrify every American, because next time it could be you. Plus, why all this is a distraction for so much more. Tonight, the real reason they're going after Trump again. Hello, America, and welcome to the program. Tonight, I do want to talk to you about President Trump and what is happening. And this is really important for both the right, left, and everybody in between. This is what banana republics do. I was talking to Mike Lee years ago, and I said, Mike, everybody's shouting, lock her up. She did a crime. And he said, okay, all right, hang on just a second. He said, that has to be proven in a court of law. And I'm like, yeah, right. And he said, do you really want to take presidential possibilities and throw them in jail? My response was, yes, I don't care who it is. If they broke the law, they should pay the price. He said, Glenn, once you do it once, you think the other side's not going to do it? So you go back and forth, you start putting people in jail. You don't have a republic, you have a banana republic. And if you don't arrest everybody the first time, the next group of people get in, they'll use it. It's a bad precedent. We should not be doing this. Now, did he do the crime? Well, let me start bringing you back to a time. It was about 12 months ago. It was in March 2022. The story happened. It flew so far under the radar, virtually no one heard it or even gave a crap about it. Hillary Clinton had broken campaign finance laws and quietly, and I want to emphasize on the word here, quietly agreed to pay a fine. Okay, so what did she do? Nothing really that anybody noticed. All the Democrats did was finance possibly the biggest political hoax in American history, the Steele dossier and the Russian collusion sham. They created it, paid for it, and labeled it, rather benignly, as legal services. Okay. I just want you to know that. She paid, I think, a $10,000 fine. Now, let's fast forward to last Friday. By the end of the day, media outlets began reporting from unnamed sources that law enforcement agencies were preparing to arrest the 45th president of the United States as early as this week. The story is as old as 2018. The left was throwing everything they could at the wall, hoping something would stick. Everything President Trump and his family touched was suddenly fair game, and it had to be criminal. It was open season for left-wing activist lawyers and radical blue state district attorneys. Cases were being looked at with the Trump finances for the Trump companies, involving a case that allegedly had hush money paid through Michael Cohen. Now let's go back to the article from NBC. Cohen was later repaid with the money he shelled out to Stormy Daniels through payments that were listed by Trump's company as legal fees. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is investigating Trump for felony falsification of business records. Now, wait, hold on. Misrepresenting legal fees that allegedly led to a campaign finance violation. Hey, that sounds exactly like what Hillary Clinton and the Democrats quietly settled by paying a small fine. Why is this one being fingerprinted? And by the way, statute of limitations is way past. This case started in 2018. It was halted by federal prosecutors in 2019. They had nothing, okay? Then it's brought back by an activist Manhattan district attorney who I guarantee you is going to be running for governor. It's a purely political hit job. There are no new facts that have come out. Nothing has changed since 2018 and 2019, except, if I want to tell you entirely the truth, the one thing that has changed is statute of limitations have run out. And Donald Trump has declared that he's running for president again. For these radical leftists, that is Trump's true crime. For them, his felony was humiliating Hillary Clinton in front of the entire world and standing in their way. And for that, they will never stop looking for something to try to put him behind bars. So let me tell you about this New York district attorney. His name is Alvin Bragg. He bragged about suing Trump more than 100 times while he was on his campaign receiving money from George Soros. But justice and stopping crime isn't why Soros funds these radicals. They don't give a flying crap about crime and suffering. And Alvin Bragg is one of his poster children. He caused an uproar when he announced he wouldn't prosecute certain crimes like resisting arrest, drug crimes, and others. The result has been a spike in felonies, the likes of which have not been seen in 15 years. New York has become a hellhole. Take a walk in Manhattan. You know what it smells like? It smells like a pot palace, a pot palace that is on fire and then somebody put it out by pissing all over it. That's what New York smells like. It's great, especially this time of year. You step inside a store, everything is locked behind plastic barriers to fend off all of the shoplifters. Go just to the drugstore. Everything is behind glass now and locked. New York City, a city that I actually really love, is rapidly descending into chaos. It's a nosedive. But people like George Soros, he doesn't care. He's not funding district attorneys to be crime fighters. He's funding political hitmen. That is what Alvin Bragg is. And Trump is his mark. Every day, the Democratic Party walks our country into the direction of the Soviet Union. This is not the justice system of our republic. This is what communists and dictators do. Do you even recognize our country under Joe Biden? Look at this example. Donald Trump posted this on social media on Saturday. Quote, "The far and away leading Republican candidate and former president of the United States will be arrested on Tuesday next week. Protest, take our nation back." Well, by and large, the president got hammered for saying this. Kevin McCarthy pushed back and said, "We want calmness out there." I agree. We need level heads. We need calm. We don't need riots and violence. But that's not what he said. He said protest. That's American tradition. But do you feel comfortable protesting? Why not? When in this country has it ever been un-American to call for protests? You ever remember a time like that? You know, the French are currently protesting in the streets of France over Macron's action against pensions. Consider this for a second. The French feel as if the right to protest is one of their God-given rights, and they haven't even written it down. We have. The French feel safe enough to do this in their own country. That is how far our country has changed, because you don't feel safe to exercise your rights. You don't know who's going to be standing next to you. And if you're standing next to somebody who has different points of view, it's not their fault. You shouldn't have been there. You could be the little old lady that was given a charge with the crime of parading in the Capitol on January 6th. A little old lady. Several of them. That's why you're not out in the streets today, and they know it. But their monsters could be out in the street anytime they want. Biden's Department of Justice has led a shock and awe campaign that resulted in 1,000 arrests over January 6th. They, quote, literally want to double down, arresting another 1,000. This is the political climate we live in. This is Cuba, not America. Democrats are trying to jail their political opponents. That's what Chavez does, not an American president. We've seen this in Russia, China, North Korea. Anyone that might want to protest has to consider the wrath of a weaponized Department of Justice. They have to consider that the FBI might be undercover, goading them into something that somebody next to them might do, and you get charged with something. That's not America. We are now being told that law enforcement doesn't expect anything to happen until next week. Is that true, or are we being screwed with? Or is this one giant distraction? You know, I used to always say, watch the other hand. While we're all talking about Trump, what else is going on? What are they trying to distract us from? There are so many tripwires. There's so many things that they don't want you looking at. They don't want you walking through. I've lost count of all the ones that could either bring our country down or bring down the radicals within the Democratic Party. That is now the direction we should be looking at. The left knows they don't have a strong case against Trump. Everyone knows that. The government knew that back in 2019. They stopped trying. But does anyone actually believe that Donald Trump could get a fair trial in Manhattan? We'll have no choice but to concentrate on this blatant violation of justice. And while all of this is happening, the fundamental transformation of America will continue. The Democratic behavior will go unscrutinized because America is distracted. Well, not this program and not you tonight. Distracted from what? When we come back. All right, I want to talk to you about Good Ranchers. Check out Good Ranchers this month. They are running March Meatness, and you don't want to miss out on March Meatness. You can subscribe any day this month and get free bacon for a year added to your order. Pick the box of 100% American raised and butchered meat. Any meat you want, you get free bacon. If your bracket wins, you'll get bacon free for the next year. If you don't win, you still get 24 ounces of bacon free with every order. Free shipping and guaranteed 100% American meat delivered right to your door. If you need even more push over the edge, go to goodranchers.com and use the promo code Glenn. You'll get an additional $20 off your first order. Your chance to win $2,000 of meat, free bacon, $20 off. Good Ranchers. Oh, how about this one? You also lock in your price of your meat as long as you subscribe. That price of your beef is going up. For the best meat, seafood, chicken, you got it. All from America. GoodRanchers.com/March. Okay. I don't know if you've noticed this, but things are a little on the edge right now. I was just drawing this guy. This is our happy republic. And we keep getting closer and closer to the edge. And then I think at some point we end up kind of like that. Okay? We shouldn't get closer to the edge because we might fall and end up a splatter. I mentioned earlier that there are so many republic-breaking tripwires right now. I've almost lost track. The pressure is everywhere. And you can believe that the Biden government doesn't want us to really look at all of these because all of these have the ability to fundamentally transform this country. So why are they going after Donald Trump now? Well, there's lots of reasons. But I would like to start with the granddaddy of them all, distraction from the banking crisis. The banking crisis, inflation. By the way, the Fed that told us inflation is just transitory. If they raise the interest rate today, the banks were worried that, we might have a whole bunch of banks go down. Well, they did raise it. You know why? Because they're terrified of the inflation that is coming. They couldn't not raise the rates today because of inflation. What does that tell you? This gives you flashbacks to 2008. You should read on, because the next chapter is much worse than 2008. The banking crisis spreading to Europe. Credit Suisse has been in operation for 166 years. Switzerland's largest bank, UBS, had to do a hasty deal at the very last minute to buy them out, quick, before the markets open. The deal was so last minute and rushed, the New York Times reported, quote, "So hastily assembled was the deal that UBS told analysts that they didn't have the time to fully model all of the financial impacts of buying Credit Suisse." Okay. Credit Suisse has had its problems, but Deutsche Bank has been on the edge too. What's going to happen with them? How many banks here are facing this same scenario? This rate going up 0.25 today, is that going to put any of our other banks in line? And by the way, if we bail out all the banks, isn't that nationalizing our banks? The former chair of FDIC said on Friday that we could be on the verge of a Bear Stearns moment, where government bailouts encourage more bailouts, like what happened in 2008. But it does not end the way 2008 ended, because we had the money back then, or we just printed. But now we have inflation. This is a knockout punch for the entire West if everything isn't played exactly right. Yeah, riots on the street would be a really good time right now, wouldn't it? Now, I'm not saying to go out and, stock up on your food supply, but I'm not saying that either. There is clearly a ripple in the force. It's like I heard millions of voices cry out, yeah, that's the economy. And the Biden administration is trying to brush everything off as business as usual. It is not. The Fed doled out $160 billion through the so-called discount window to keep these banks afloat. That's record-shattering. The Fed discount borrowing hit $111 billion in 2008 before they shut it down. We hit $51 billion during the pandemic. We just did $165 billion. Whatever anybody says, that's not usual. And have you seen what some of our biggest corporations are doing right now? Disney just announced they're laying off 4,000 people. Amazon cutting 9,000. Facebook, 10,000. Google, 12,000. With the exception of Google, all of these cuts were announced within the past couple of weeks. The ripple in the force. It's all of a sudden they all stopped. Yeah. It's becoming a wave. This is but one of the things Biden is trying to downplay. They've been telling you forever, oh no, it's transitory and prices are coming down. They're about to go out of control. And speaking of out of control, the border. Do you know this year, in the last 12 months, we've put 2 million people on our border into our country. Those are the ones we know about, okay? We caught some of them, but these guys got in 2 million in 12 months. So that number is bigger than the entire Trump administration. He's done it in 1 year. Border Patrol chief just admitted we have effectively lost operational control of the border. We are now averaging 189,000 border encounters a month. That's 3 times higher than we saw under Trump. And these are the ones we know about. We have no idea how many got away, how many are on the wanted list or a terrorist list. 2 million crossings. Again, Trump's entire 4 years in one. I told you earlier how Biden's wanted to reset another or to arrest another 1,000 January 6 protesters. Really? This is but one example of a government that continues to weaponize federal enforcement. Biden's proposed budget of $6.8 $8 trillion. By the way, see Tripwire number 1, banking and inflation. Would, if this goes through, it would increase the funding to the ATF to $1.9 billion. That's $700 million of an increase from when he was vice president under Obama. Wow. Biden stated he's going after guns. I think he's serious. We should have known that when you look at the recent executive order he signed just last week. It's kind of makes you wonder what the ATF is about to do with $1.9 billion, doesn't it? All of these things are examples of Democratic sleight of hand. Concentrate on Trump, but not how they're busy transforming the country or how we are about to just be destroyed. This could collapse us. This could collapse us. This could collapse us, turn us into a communist, authoritarian state. The destruction of energy. How do you think this is going to work out? Russia, China, war. Wow. Any of these things could collapse our country. Definitely don't look at Joe Biden himself. I mean, don't. Listen to Representative James Comer here.
Do you have any comment about Trump potentially being indicted on Tuesday?
Well, it's very odd that this would come out just the very next day after I revealed bank records, which showed that the Biden family, the president in particular, hasn't been truthful with respect to his family receiving payments directly from the Chinese Communist Party. So it almost looks like it's an effort to detract.
Wow. So banking, the border, weaponized government, destruction of energy, war with Russia and China, loss of speech on Title IX. I don't know if you saw that. That's happening. You're going to have to say whatever the pronouns are. Otherwise, you're under arrest. Oh, and the Pentagon is now programming AI to crawl the entire web so they can stop your speech. They'll know. Oh, that's great. But maybe, possibly, the Trump arrest leak came out just one day after the House Oversight Committee released a memorandum. Bank records revealed that multiple Bidens were receiving payments from a Chinese energy company. You know, the country that is threatening us and we're threatening them because they're an enemy of ours, I guess. But you wouldn't know it from Gretchen Whitmer. You see that deal she just made? It's fantastic. Read all about that. This news also coincided with another major story. Hunter Biden filed a lawsuit going after the owner of the computer repair shop that exposed the Hunter Biden laptop. So, the laptop is real, and it is his, and now he's admitted it wasn't a Russian hoax. He should have pointed that out earlier. So now either this is insanely coincidental and amazing, lucky timing for the Bidens, or it was done to intentionally distract us. Which do you think it is? The House reveals damning information, making the Bidens look guilty. Then Hunter Biden sues the laptop repair shop owner. Then a leak states that Trump is about to be arrested. Wow, incredible timing. So if all of this were part of a giant distraction operation, what has them so scared? China. You know, Joe Biden hasn't spoken to President Xi one time. He hasn't talked to him since the spy balloon. That all happened. He hadn't gotten him on the phone. What's going on with that? Told you about Gretchen Whitmer just a minute ago. $750 million in taxpayer money to a Chinese company in Michigan that in their doctrine, in their bylaws, as a company, it says they have to bring people into the party and have a little youth communist party. These are communists. So are the Chinese our friends or their enemies? Because I keep picking up mixed signals here. Which are they? Or is it that maybe the Chinese have something, shall I say, compromising on somebody that's important and their family? Bank subpoenas revealed less than 2 months after Biden left the White House in 2017 that a Chinese company called State Energy 8 HK Hong Kong Limited wired $3 million to Robinson Walker LLC, a limited liability company. What a surprise. In Delaware. Yeah, okay. So these guys in Hong Kong, what do? They provide energy for Hong Kong. And they're into this Green New Deal too. So they had $3 million sitting around and they're like, what are we going to do with that? Well, I'll tell you what we need to do. We need to get the best energy experts that are fluent in Mandarin and get them over here right away. What are their ideas for new energy? And so they went looking and they found Rob Walker. He's great. His business account only had $159,000 in it, and then the Chinese called, and then he had $3 million in his account. He's got to be somebody important. Now, the very next day, Walker wired over $1 million to a company associated to a business partner of Hunter Biden's named James Galar. So he's like, I got to get somebody else that speaks Mandarin, and is up on energy. So James, he gets $1 million. Over the next 3 months, Walker would send incremental payments to multiple Bidens and their companies, including Hunter Biden, James Biden, that's Joe's brother. Really the better looking one, I think. But that's not enough. Hunter Biden, sure, we know he can speak Ukrainian, right? So he knows about gas and oil. So of course you got to do it. James, he's got to have some of that money too, because he's got something important to say. But if you really want to get the expert on energy in China, you go right to the source. It's Hallie Biden, Beau Biden's ex-wife, and just the sexy girlfriend of Beau Biden's brother, Hunter. You got to get this team together. Now, there is another set of money that went in. We don't know who it is. It's just listed as Biden. Spokesperson for Hunter Biden stated, quote, Hunter Biden, a private citizen with every right to pursue his own business endeavors, joined several business partners in seeking a joint venture with a legitimate energy company in China. Hunter received his portion of good faith seed funds, which he shared with his uncle James and Hallie and nobody else. Okay, so now we've gone from this laptop is Russian to now this laptop is mine and I'm going to sue. And now we find out, yeah, I did do that, but it was totally legitimate. And I did not give it to the big guy, the other Biden. If it was so legitimate, why did this Chinese company use a pass-through of this porker? And I say that, I know porkers. Look at me. Why did they disperse the funds incrementally over several months? Why don't you just do it? And why was it done just a couple of months after Joe Biden left office? And if Hunter didn't share this money with anyone else, who's the mysterious Biden? I'm just saying. If I'm trying to play, I don't know, let's say pay for play, and I'm trying to hide that, I would wait to receive money from a company from a foreign adversary just a few months after I left office. If I'm trying to conceal it even further, I split it up in a whole bunch of payments and run it through a bunch of people. You know what I mean? And who is the Chinese company? Well, it's State Energy HK Limited. That's who that is. They're into energy and stuff. Yeah. Well, we did some digging around. We found they have a finger in a lot of different things, including a Hong Kong investment company focused on the distribution of garments. Wow. Well, maybe that's what Hallie, I don't want to be sexist, but I mean, she's a sharp dresser. Their main focus does appear to be energy, however. And they made multiple purchases of green energy companies around the time they wired $3 million to Robinson Walker, which is weird because this is our green energy president. It would be weird if he was making money or helping out, the green energy over in China, and then he's like, I'm all in for green energy. That seems like a conflict. Again, rather curious. The Bidens had made the green revolution their biggest issue. Biden is the biggest green lobbyist in the world right now. And a Chinese company that buys up shares in green energy companies is sending money to the Bidens. Now, I'm not saying this is pay for play, but this is exactly what it would look like if it were. The New York Times reported that State Energy HK Limited is affiliated with another Chinese company called CEFC Energy. Now, this is where it gets really weird, okay? Yeah, Hunter's laptop mentioned a very lucrative business deal that he was working on when he was working with CEFC. The emails that were definitely Russian, but now definitely his, included a profit-sharing breakdown that showed who would get the money. This is where we first heard the phrase, 10 for the big guy. Amazing coincidence, because this company here uses a pass-through to wire multiple payments known to somebody known only as Biden. Biden, big guy, same people. Now weird. Were the payments sent to Hallie, who has got to be an Chinese green energy genius? Or was it meant for the big guy? I don't know. We still don't know. Perhaps we'll never know. And all the while, this is going on, the Democrats are trying to arrest Trump for misrepresenting legal fees, a misdemeanor. They want to make it a felony. Something Hillary Clinton did, but was let off with a $10,000 fine. So, $100,000 fine. It's weird. It seems like this is what's really going on, and they don't want you looking at any of these things over here. It seems almost like the Trump thing is a sham, a mockery, a very good distraction. Don't fall for it. Back in a minute. All right. You work hard for your money. The money you earn, you're like me, you want to spend that money and, on things that you prefer to spend it on. And the things you prefer to spend it on are things that are made here in America. It's not patriotism. Honestly, it is beginning to be survival. Things that are made here in America, they last longer. They give us pride in ownership. And they usually set the standard for the rest of the world. It's one of the reasons I love partnering with companies like Grip 6. Grip 6 is a company that started out, I think they were just making belts at the beginning. And they wanted to do everything made here in America. So they started their company and they're growing. They're true American experience, products that you can count on. Whether you're buying their wallets or their belts or their socks, you're supporting, with socks, the American rancher who breeds specialty breed of sheep that will produce the modern wool. The American manufacturers who wash it, process it, and then weave it into socks. That's an American business. That is helping all of us. And those owners, those people that do this, a lot of risk comes with only using American-made products and American labor. It's hard to do, but they're doing it. Will you check them out? grip6.com. grip6.com/Beck. Go there now. grip6.com/Beck. I wanted to bring on the author of multiple books on political corruption, including his most recent, Red-Handed: How American Elites Get Rich Helping China Win. This book doesn't hold anything back, and it punches both left and right. His book, Secret Empires, will blow your mind. It explains how politicians use their positions to enrich their family and friends. I don't know what this has to do with the Bidens. Peter Schweizer is foremost expert on what people like the Bidens are up to in places like Ukraine and China. Peter, thank you so much for joining us. How are you, sir?
It's great. Great always to be with you, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
So, Peter, I remember you came on, and I think it was for Secret Empires, and you said to me off air, Glenn, Joe Biden is probably the most corrupt vice president that we've ever had in the history of America. And I was like, oh, yeah, it must be bad. I had no idea how bad this really is.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that meeting, Glenn. It was in 2018 in Dallas. I remember it well. And honestly, in 2018, I didn't know the full extent of it.
Right.
But what you find is by breadth, meaning the number of family members involved, and the depth, meaning the amount of money and the foreign entities they're involved in. I don't know any other family, political family, that is as bad as the Bidens are. And that's counting the Clintons and everybody else that we've known over the years.
I mean, if they were involved with pharmaceutical companies, I could understand maybe Hallie, but definitely Hunter. They have drug experience. But do they have any experience at all with energy companies? Do they speak Mandarin? Do they anything?
No, I got nothing for you, Glenn. I mean, that's you look at the timeline of this. Joe Biden becomes vice president of the United States. He's sworn in January of 2009. Within 5 months, Hunter Biden sets up an international finance company. He has no international business experience, no real finance experience. And then within a year of setting up this new company for which he has no background, he's in China meeting with the top officials. I'm talking about the equivalent of the Secretary of the Treasury, the head of the Federal Reserve, the head of UBS, the head of Goldman Sachs. He meets with 11 of them. So anybody who wants to argue that, well, he's just a businessman trying to find his way, the timeline and the history simply does not match. We know exactly what's going on here. It's obvious. And I think as this congressional investigation moves on, we're going to get more and more pieces of it.
So again, what is their background? Do they have Hallie, the brother, what's his name, James? Do they have anything they're bringing to the table of substance that you could say, okay, well, maybe?
No, I mean, Hunter went to law school, but he never practiced any kind of corporate or finance law. James Biden, his other brother, Frank Biden, they've always been hangers-on with Joe. They ran Joe's campaigns in the early years, and then they, sort of orbited him. They'd get contracts and other things because of who their brother was. So, no, there's never been any substance to it. And it's one thing, Glenn, when you're talking about, the local business or the local road contractor who wants a federal paving contract. We're not talking about this. We're talking about the globalization of corruption, foreign oligarchs and entities that want to shape and steer the direction of our country. Okay, that's China, that's Russia, that's Ukraine.
So here's what disturbs me so much. You have natural gas pipelines coming from Russia. They suddenly explode. I'm sure it's the raccoon dog in China that did it. They explode. That helps the green energy movement. That shuts Russia out. It also makes them more dependent on gas. Whoa, what a surprise. Wasn't Hunter Biden involved with gas in Ukraine and all kinds of things in Ukraine? Then the other one is green energy in China, while the president becomes the biggest green energy advocate of all time. Peter, this is beyond corruption. you're dealing with China. At this time, it becomes treason at some point, does it not?
Well, Glenn, look at the two hotspots, Ukraine and China right now. And let's talk about Biden entanglements briefly. President Zelensky of Ukraine, I think he's doing a great job of fighting off Russia, and we should help them fight off Russia. But the problem is Zelensky is a very corrupt political figure. Who's his chief backer? It's publicly known. It's a Ukrainian oligarch named Kolomoisky. Who is Kolomoisky? Kolomoisky was one of the owners of Burisma, which is the energy company that was paying Hunter Biden $1 million a year, even though he had no background in energy.
Peter, if you look, hang on just a sec. Before you leave Ukraine, have you found any link to all of the money that we are sending over to Ukraine to Kolomoisky?
Well, here's what we know. We sent aid dollars to Ukraine before. We helped the IMF send some $8 to $10 billion about 10 years ago to bolster the financial system in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. $8 billion of it was lost. And it was lost by Privat Bank, which is owned by Kolomoisky. So my view is send the Ukrainians weapons, send them foodstuff. Do not send them cash, because it is going to end up in the pockets of these oligarchs who recycle it, by the way, by giving it to American political figures and consultants in the United States.
Isn't that amazing? Imagine what could be done to the world with $120 billion just floating around out there.
Exactly right.
Okay, come back in just a minute with there's no business experience with Hallie. Wow, why would the Chinese do that? All right, back in just a minute. All right, I want you to listen to this former cyber criminal.
Nobody thinks that I can take their house and borrow against the house. Oh, no, I have title insurance for that. No, it's in my name, or he would have to get some special document. They would call me. Nobody's calling you. After I've stolen the title, borrowed against it, or sold the property, or done whatever I've done with it, it's 60 to 90 days to even figure out that they're the victim of this crime. By that point, you start getting foreclosure notices, and you realize you've got 4 mortgages on your house. Not only that, you don't even own your home anymore. It's not even in your name.
He sounds friendly. He got caught forging and refiling people's home titles. Lots of others who do this have not been caught yet. Home title fraud is on the rise in the country, and neither your standard identity theft programs nor your homeowner's insurance will protect you from this. No, I had a title search. It's different. That's why you should choose Home Title Lock. You might already be a victim and not know it. Go to HometitleLock.com and get a free title scan just to make sure you're not already a victim. You just sign up. You'll need to verify your home is still in your name. Then use the promo code Beck and get 30 free days of protection. Promo code Beck at HometitleLock.com. Wouldn't it be just like these forward thinkers, these progressives, to try to take Trump and book him? And that way, when this trial goes through, they can go, this is just revenge for what happened to Donald Trump. I mean, the games these guys play is just amazing. Do we have any other Biden that could be the mystery Biden on this? I mean, could it be Frank Biden that got this extra money and not Joe?
It could be. Here's the thing that's pretty surprising, Glenn, is first of all, seems like every member of the Biden family has multiple LLCs. It's not clear what their businesses are, but they have multiple LLCs. And it also goes to the point that money is highly fungible in the Biden family. The defense has always been Joe didn't profit from this. Joe wasn't involved in these deals, as if money is sort of hermetically sealed within the Biden family.
Right.
This is just further evidence of what we've known before, which is the money sloshes around. Hunter Biden was paying Joe Biden's bills. He was paying for renovations on his home. And this is a Biden family story with Joe Biden at the center of it. It's not just a Hunter Biden or Hallie Biden story.
You and I have talked about this so many times, and I've never thought that they were going to pay the price for this at all. But the evidence that's mounting up and the admission through that lawsuit that that is his laptop and it's legitimate, that's not good. You think they'll pay a price?
Well, I'm not a lawyer. We'll have to see what the revelations are, but I certainly think there are lots of potential crimes that have been committed here. And we've got this grand jury. Remember, it was convened about 4 months after Secret Empires came out when you and I talked about it. And that grand jury's still going on. I have several friends who are former U.S. attorneys. They say it is highly unusual for a grand jury to continue to meet this long unless they're actually working on something substantial. They don't just keep these things going for no reason. So I do think there are going to be indictments against Hunter Biden, and I do think the congressional committees are going to give us real hard evidence that Joe Biden benefited from these deals with China. And then it's going to be up to voters to make up their mind whether these things matter to them. And in my mind, they absolutely should.
So let me go to Trump, and I like you, Peter, because you hit both sides hard. Trump, they have gone after everything they could. And I told him one time, we were having dinner, and I said, you know, I can't believe you're as clean as you are. You were building buildings in New York. I thought for sure you were going to have something. And he's been so investigated, but now they're trying to make this into a felony, which Hillary Clinton paid a fine for. Same thing. Are they going to get away with this? Do you think they actually indict him? We have a minute.
I think they probably are going to indict him. And look, the problem we have with the criminal justice system in America today is this trial is going to be held in Manhattan. And you don't know what you're going to get with a jury, just like you didn't know what you were going to get with the Bannon case in D.C. And I think what the Bidens are banking on is if that Hunter's indicted, that trial is going to be held in Delaware. So, you know, I would not put it past him for the indictment. And I would be concerned about what this jury is going to do in a political trial, which is really what this is, not a criminal trial in terms of Trump.
Is there any way to say I won't get a fair trial here? I want to change a venue? Even if it was
I would think there would be.
Yeah, there has to be.
Yeah, I would think there would be, or depending who the judge is, maybe you want to judge. But look, I don't know exactly what went on. I'm not a lawyer, but to me, they have been trying everything. This is a classic example of we found the man. Now let's try to find the crime so we can put him behind bars.
Peter, thank you very much.
Thanks, Glenn.
You bet.